Women all over the world are championing environmental initiatives, activating change, and nurturing our environment like one of their own brood. Entrepreneurial Women with Purpose are celebrating women across Marlborough, New Zealand, who are leading our community as environmental guardians. Our podcasts are full of action-oriented takeaways, so be sure to have your journal as we delve into their stories and celebrate their passions. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Women with Purpose. I'm Catherine van der Meulen, and joining me on today's podcast is Andree Piddington, Sustainability Manager at Yealands Wine Group. In this podcast series, we are celebrating women who are environmental guardians and leaders in Marlborough, who are actively creating positive environmental impact through their work, community projects, and passions. Great to have you join us on this series, Andree. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Catherine. How are you?
Good, thank you. So, who is Andree Piddington?
I am probably first and foremost a mother of two boys. I've got a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old, and they're my pride and joy. And I've been living in Blenheim for the last 23 years. And we moved here, and I've been working in the wine industry for probably the last 10 years. Which I've been really enjoying. And probably things that I love most are things like I love walking and tramping. I love the Marlborough Sounds, which I feel as if I don't get out there enough. And I love gardening. I've got quite a large garden, and I love getting outside and spending time in my garden. So those are really my happy places, and the places that kind of fill my cup.
Love it. One of the reasons that we started Climate Action Marlborough was so that we could still in the future be walking on the Marlborough Sounds, that we weren't going to lose a lot of those sounds, that we could actually still walk through all of those beautiful forests. So yeah, I'm absolutely with you there.
Yeah, no, it's stunning out there.
So, Andree, what was your call to adventure to do the meaningful work that you do today through Yealands Estate Wines?
I suppose, my love of outdoors and being outside, and seeing that how it was, how the climate has been affecting our world. I wanted to do something a bit more meaningful. And working for Yealands just felt like the right company to work for. Their sustainability and their commitment to reducing emissions and reducing the impact on the environment was really embedded in everything that they do. So it really spoke to my heart. And, so their values really aligned to my values. And I think, you don't really get to work with a company that have your values aligned that often. So I feel quite lucky to be able to work for them. And I think, the most important thing for me is that, I want to be able to leave, my children's world in a better shape than before. And even if it is just a really tiny way, at least I know that the work that I'm doing at Yealands is making a small difference.
If we could take a slight divert to the idea of values that you spoke about, and how those values of Yealands have been aligned to your own values, and how difficult that is, and how it is such a rarity, sadly, such a rarity that we can find an organisation that does reflect our values. How did you come to figure out what your values were, to know that they were aligned to what?
Well, I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think, Yealands want to make a difference. They want to, they don't want to actually, they want to improve the environment, and they want to reduce the impact on the environment that they have for the operations that they do. And for me, that's what I believe in. I believe that I want to go away. When I leave this world, I want to actually have done something that can reduce that impact on the world that we have. So, to have their values very similar to what I have is, I feel quite lucky to have that opportunity to work for a company like that.
Absolutely. And so, what are you most passionate about being an environmental guardian?
I think there's a couple of things. Restoration of the environment is really, I'm really passionate about it, so that we have a really healthy environment, a vibrant environment. And by restoring the environment, the ecosystem has a richer biodiversity and is better for our planet. Yealands has a really cool biodiversity plan, which is a 30-year intergenerational plan that covers 270 hectares of land, which we'll plant in those 30 years, over 1 million trees. And in that plan, we've got some pretty cool things. We've got, significant natural areas within the plan, such as Hog Swamp. We've got this one lonely tree on the property called a kaikamaka tree, which is the only one in the region. And then we've got these endangered species, muritai shrubs at the coast. And these are all really critical that we actually protect them for now and for generations to come. So the plan is quite significant. So for me, coordinating the whole biodiversity plan has been really rewarding, and we can already see some pretty cool changes in what is happening with the bird life and the insects and things that are actually happening now. And it's only been a few years since we've started it, so that's pretty cool. Going forward, we've got in September, we've got our annual planting. So we're planting another 10,000 trees. So it'd be quite a super cool community event where we've got students from, the Boys and Girls College. We've got community groups coming. We've got some businesses. We've got some individuals. So it should be super fun. And, getting back to nature and sharing some food and planting a few trees. So it should be quite cool.
We'll all absolutely be there.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting to actually get it in, and actually it just looks so good what we've done so far. So, which is great. The other thing, sorry.
I was just going to say, if anyone is wondering what would be entailed in a biodiversity plan,
yeah,
where does an organisation begin? Because you don't necessarily need to be working, and have a land mass to be able to incorporate a biodiversity plan, because there's lots of organisations that also incorporate biodiversity into their organisations in lots of different ways. Where would an organisation begin to think about a biodiversity plan for their organisation?
Well, I mean, if you've obviously, like you say, if you've got your land, then you can actually start, those areas that you don't have, are not productive land areas can be used. Those little secret corners and bits of waterways and bits and pieces like that can actually be part of your biodiversity, because you can actually improve those areas by plantings or protection or something like that. I suppose if you don't have land of your own, then you can be involved with other, you align yourself to community groups that do something that your company is passionate about, something like a wetland restoration project, or the care conservation at Rainbow Ski Field, removing the nails off the top of the ski field thing. Those sort of projects actually increase help biodiversity and keep everything going quite nicely. So it's either aligning yourself or getting something going in your own area.
What have been some of the key learnings for you that have changed your perspective along the way?
I suppose key learning, sustainability is a journey, and there's no end date really. And you've got to constantly look at ways to improve things or improve the way that you do it. You've got to learn by your mistakes, and you can use other people's ideas. I think the biggest thing is actually working together as a group. So if you actually can do it together, then you can create change and you can make difference, and you can actually make that difference a lot faster than by doing it by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And why is it so important for us all to take that leadership to protect our environment? Why should we not just wait for government? Why should we not just wait for council? Why should we not wait for somebody else to take the action? Why is that important?
Well, I think because we're at or we're very, very close to a tipping point, and if we don't act now, the consequences for all of us is actually really dire. So we've got to take action now. Whether we just can't wait for government, we can't wait for council. We've got to actually do something ourselves, and we can't do it just by ourselves. We've got, and we don't, we can't. We've got to do it as a group, as an industry, or as a community. And we just don't have time to wait. So um, I think the sort of impact that we need to have any sort of impact, we actually need to work together. We need to actually share what went well, what actually didn't go well, and this way we'll actually move forward a lot faster, and not wait for government to put in policy that could take years to actually get put in place.
And that is really one thing that I do love about our work with Climate Action Marlborough
Yeah.
is bringing those organisations together and knowing that we are collectively creating that impact across our community, and forestry, learning from viticulture, and viticulture, learning from aquaculture, and all of these diverse
Yeah.
industries coming together. They're very different challenges that they each face and very different outcomes for their industry. But a lot of it actually fundamentally comes down to the same things around carbon, around waste, around water,
Mm-hmm.
around biodiversity. All of the undercurrent of those things are all the same. It's just obviously a very different industry. And we have so much to learn from other organizations. And when you bring all those diverse organizations together, not only can you learn, but then you can create really meaningful partnerships. And I've seen some really meaningful partnerships come about this year just by connecting those people together. Is there something else that you want to share about how important those partnerships and collaborations are?
Yeah, I think those partnerships are absolutely critical. Because like I said before, I mean, we can't do it all by ourselves. So we have to work together, and I think you're only going to make a difference, and make a difference faster, by actually working together. And groups like the Climate Action, Marlborough Climate Action Week group is a really important group. The other one is the industry group for the wine industry group, and that's another really good group, which is just looking at wine industry issues, such as waste, where we've all got a common issue, and we're trying to create solutions for one particular issue, and then we'll work through the next issue. But it's a whole group of people actually working through those issues. And same with what you're doing with the climate action group, is getting different people from different industries, because you'll be thinking, oh, we've got this problem in my industry, but I can't think of a solution. But then you speak to somebody from other industry and you're like, oh my goodness, that's just so clear and easy, and why haven't we done that before? So it's really important to actually have those groups working together.
And what has been the proudest moment for you on this journey so far?
um I think the proudest thing, one of the most proudest things on this journey is gaining the gold status for the International Wineries for Climate Action. So we've just been awarded that not that long ago, and we're one of only 6 wineries in the world that has gained the status. So it's amazing recognition for the work that we've done at Yealands. And there's some really, really strict criteria to actually get that gold status, measuring scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions, and having those independently audited, being committed to reducing our emissions by 50% by 2030 and by net zero by 2050. There's other things like 20% reduction, having 20% of our energy generated on site by renewables, and consistently showing a reduction in our emissions per litre of wine. So, to actually be one of 6 companies in the world, wine companies in the world, to achieve that status is something that we're super proud of, and something that I'm super proud of being part of.
It's incredible. And
Mm.
so, what does being a good ancestor mean to you in Marlborough?
Um, I suppose, we ancestors to the future generation, and what we do now affects what happens in the future. Um, and the world we live in at the moment, it's all about instant gratification, such as social media and their likes, and then maybe, turning a profit without thinking too far in the future. So to be a good ancestor is about planning for the future and having a vision of what we want to see, what it looks like, and putting in place a plan and taking action now, so that what we're doing is, so by doing this is the only way that we can be a good ancestor for our children, our grandchildren, and the generations to come.
And if you were to describe that vision that you can see, that you're
Mm.
working towards, what are some of the things that you can see if you were to close your eyes and kind of imagine what that looks like? What does Marlborough look like in the future?
Well, I think, if we, if, I think, the vision for the future in Marlborough be, things, that we look, ways of increasing our biodiversity, the way of working together to actually come up with a common, to improve our environment, such as, the industry looking at, our waste streams and increasing their biodiversity by restoring and enhancing, um, enhancement projects within the environment, maybe using technology and innovation that we can reduce our environment. Those are the sort of things that we need to be looking at for the future, so that we can, um, have an amazing and vibrant and exciting and beautiful area in Marlborough to live in.
Yeah. So last year, I read an incredible book called From What Is to What If by environmentalist and author Rob Hopkins. And he talks about in the beginning of the book about kind of imagining a different future. And he takes you on this
Mm.
complete journey, from his when he wakes up in the morning and the way that his house has been built, and he jumps on his bicycle and he takes his children to school and they go past the community bakery, and there are no supermarkets, there's not many cars on the road, there are all these amazing
Mm.
wildlife corridors. You can completely get immersed in what a possible future could look like. And I guess it's really making sure that that kind of stuff is really front and center for us, that we can then
Mm.
know exactly what we're working towards, and then what are those small actions that we can take towards achieving that vision. But you're right, if we don't have what that vision is, our ancestry is up to somebody else. So it's really important to create that visual vision of what you want your
Yeah,
future to look
yeah.
like for our children.
I know, and I'd love to see, more biodiversity, more, those forgotten corridors and bits and pieces where, they're not productive land pieces. They could be planted out. They'll be great places for birds and insects and wildlife to be thriving, and that sort of runs through the whole of Marlborough. That would be really cool to actually see, that, come to fruition. I'd love to see that.
And we have enough roundabouts in
We
Yealands
do.
and Marlborough. I think we have a huge amount of land mass that we could actually convert into these biodiverse hubs of birds and bees and butterflies and wildflowers and all sorts of things. I think we could have a heaving buffet of biodiversity in our
Oh, I'm
beautiful
sure
town.
we could. It would be lovely. Yeah.
Let us get loose, Marlborough District Council.
Yeah.
Andree, the Marlborough Economic Wellbeing Strategy, which was designed by the team at the Marlborough District Council, is focused on a thriving economy balanced with a flourishing environment and vibrant communities. What actions are you taking to achieve that through your work?
So Yealands has got the Yealands Marlborough Sustainability Initiative, which is really a really cool initiative for, supporting non-profit, groups to enhance biodiversity across Marlborough. So it's a contestable fund. We put up $50,000 a year, where groups can apply to up to, $10,000. And we've supported over, I think we've been going for 3 or 4 years, 4 years maybe, and we've supported some pretty amazing initiatives, such as, wildling pine control, wetland restoration, predator control, trail planting and restoration. So they're pretty cool things that I'm involved with work that's coming up very shortly. I think I've talked about, our biodiversity plan at Seaview Yealands already, but that's something in our, improving our biodiversity in our own backyard. And the exciting thing is it actually might form a part of this proposed larger project that is creating the South Marlborough Ecological Corridor project, which is really super exciting, and might have ecological corridors and stepping stones and linking habitats to facilitate wildlife movement. So that's another group that we're involved with to try and improve the biodiversity with our area. I think there's a couple of other things, like the Marlborough Climate Action Group. That's a really cool group which we're involved with. That is bringing the Marlborough community together to drive collective action through increasing knowledge and sharing ideas, because we can't, like I said, can't do it all by ourselves. And then obviously the Marlborough Circular Wine Industry Group, which is an industry group which looks at industry problems, and in the moment we're looking at waste streams, and trying to look at ways to dealing with our waste streams. So that's pretty cool. I mean, we've got one project within Yealands which is around biochar, which is quite a cool pilot trial that's coming up at the moment. And so biochar is this is like charcoal, and it's quite an amazing product which can help improve the soil. It's like, if you look it through like a microscope, it actually looks like a honeycomb. And so when you put it in the soil, it provides a little house for the bacteria and the fungi to grow. So it actually helps your soil quality. So we're looking at making biochar out of grape mark and lees, which are one of the waste streams within the wine industry. And we're doing that with a company called Green Circle. And so hopefully what we'll do is we'll make some biochar, and we'll be able to put it back into our vineyards, and it will become more of a to improve the ecosystem, but also as a circular type process. So grow grapes, they make wine, and then the mark goes back by making biochar back into the vineyard. So that's quite a super exciting project.
And you mentioned about soil quality. Aside from the obvious that it's going to make your plants and our trees and all of our flora and fauna healthier, why is it so important for organisations to understand their soil health and really looking below the surface?
Well, I mean, everything, the soil is what drives everything, so it's what feeds our world. So it's important that the soil health is as good as it can ever be. The thing is with, by putting back into the soil and increasing its organic matter, it has the ability to hold more water, and it becomes more resilient to things that can happen, that will happen with climate change, where water becomes a scarcity. So we need to actually increase the organic matter in our soils to actually be able to cope with what's going to come at us and the next generations to come.
I recently spoke to a farmer up in Northland who was a dairy farmer, an organic dairy farmer. And I was just, making light conversation at the beginning of the conversation about, the torrential rain that they'd been experiencing. He's like, yep, not a problem for us. And I was like, what do you mean? I haven't spoken to a farmer that hasn't had a problem with, how much rain is coming out of the sky. And he said, no, because of our soil health, we can hold the water and we can store the water, and we can also drain the water really well. And I thought, gosh, that's a really wonderful, and obviously it's taken them many years to become organic, and in terms of the soil and the turnover of their soil, and really focusing on that soil quality, but how important that is as we transition to a climate positive future, and retaining carbon, but also retaining all of those vitamins and minerals and, you know, all of that organic matter below the surface.
Oh, it's going to be super critical for for climate change to actually have our soil quality, as best as we can, because the ability to hold water is going to be critical for us to actually produce food, to actually survive, really.
And finally, Andree, what are 3 actions that our listeners can take from this discussion to embed into their world?
I think the biggest thing is start now. Even if you don't have everything sorted out, just start. And there's never a time better than now to start. Don't worry if you don't know what it doesn't work the first time. I think you're going to learn something along the way, and you're going to be able to share all those ideas. So, sharing everything that you learn, whether it's good, bad, it's the only way that everybody's going to actually move forward fast.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Andree, for sharing your world and your wisdom with entrepreneurial women with purpose. This podcast is proudly supported by Yealands Estate Winery. Yealands lead the world in sustainable wine production. We're the first winery in the world to be Toitū Carbon Zero certified from inception. Use grape prunings to heat water, miniature sheep to reduce mowing, and one of the largest solar arrays in New Zealand. With a rigorous biodiversity plan in action, Yealands are on a mission to plant 1 million native trees and become an eco-sourcing hub for the region. We are grateful for the support of Yealands to celebrate these women in our wonderful community of entrepreneurial women with purpose.